In February 2025, the earth beneath London spoke, and its voice was louder than it has been for nearly 2,000 years. Archaeologists, excavating beneath the concrete foundations of a 1980s office block at 85 Gracechurch Street, struck something that should not have been there. They did not just find a wall, they found a tribunal. This was a raised platform where Roman governors and magistrates once sat to pass judgment, issue edicts, and shape the destiny of the province of Britannia. This discovery has thrown a spotlight back onto one of the ancient world's most impressive, yet ghostly, structures. The Londinium Basilica. Once the largest building north of the Alps, bigger than the present-day St. Paul's Cathedral, this administrative behemoth was the beating heart of Roman London. It was a cathedral of commerce, a palace of justice, and the engine room of imperial power. And then, it vanished. To understand the significance of the 2025 discovery, we have to strip away the skyscrapers, the taxis, and the noise of modern London, and go back to the mud and the marsh of the 1st century. Unlike other Roman towns in Britain, such as Colchester or St. Albans, Londinium was not a pre-existing Celtic tribal capital, it was a new town. It was a startup city founded by Rome around AD 47 to 50. The Romans needed a bridge. The River Thames was a formidable barrier, wide and tidal. Their engineers found a spot where 2 gravel hills, which we now know as Cornhill and Ludgate Hill, rose from the marshy banks, narrowing the river enough to span it. They built a bridge, and around its northern bridgehead, a settlement exploded into life. This was Londinium. It was a logistical hub, a supply depot, and a port. Traders, soldiers, opportunistic merchants, and bureaucrats flocked here. It was a chaotic, muddy boomtown, a wild west on the edge of the known world. But in AD 60, just over a decade after its founding, the city was wiped off the map. Queen Boudica of the Iceni, enraged by Roman brutality, led a revolt that burned Londinium to the ground. The archaeological layer of red, burnt clay, known as the Boudican Destruction Horizon, is still found under London today. But Rome did not abandon its bridgehead. They rebuilt, and this time, they decided to make a statement. They would not just build a town, they would build a capital. And a capital needed a heart. The recent discovery at Gracechurch Street has given us our best look yet at this first attempt to monumentalize London. Built around AD 70 to 80, likely under the governorship of Gnaeus Julius Agricola, the man who would later attempt to conquer Scotland, the first basilica was a statement of intent. It was modest compared to what came later, but massive for the time. It was a rectangular hall, constructed of timber and masonry, facing onto a public square called the Forum. It sat on the summit of the eastern hill, Cornhill, the highest point in the city. It combined the roles of a town hall, a law court, and a covered market. The 2025 dig revealed walls up to 3 meters thick. The preservation was extraordinary, with archaeologists uncovering the tribunal, the high seat of power. If you stood there today, you would be standing on the very spot where the governor would have addressed the city's elite. This building signaled that Londinium was no longer just a port. It was becoming a municipium, a city with self-governing rights and the dignity of Rome. By AD 90, London was booming. The population had swelled to perhaps 30,000 or even 60,000 people. The first basilica was too small. The city planners, flush with imperial cash and ambition, decided to demolish it and build something the likes of which Britain had never seen. They built a monster. Construction of the second basilica began around AD 90 and continued for decades, finishing around AD 120, just in time for Emperor Hadrian's visit in AD 122. The scale of this complex was vast. The basilica itself was over 500 feet long. The nave, or central hall, was as wide as the nave of St. Paul's Cathedral and rose 3 stories high. It was not just a building, it was a complex. To the south lay a massive open-air piazza, the Forum, surrounded by colonnades and shops. This was the marketplace, the social hub, the Trafalgar Square of Roman London. To the north, closing off the square, stood the basilica itself. It acted as the backstop to the Forum. It was built of Kentish ragstone, imported from quarries near Maidstone, with bonding courses of red brick. The interior was clad in marble veneers imported from the Mediterranean, including green porphyry from Greece and white Carrara from Italy. The floors were paved with crushed tile concrete or mosaics. Imagine walking into the Great Basilica in AD 125. You enter from the bustling, noisy Forum, stepping through massive portico doors. The noise of the market fades slightly, replaced by a cavernous echo. To your left and right are double rows of towering stone columns, creating aisles where merchants set up stalls, moneylenders count coins, and lawyers argue with clients. The central space is open, lit by clerestory windows high above. It is smoky from oil lamps and braziers. Along the northern wall is a row of offices. These are the bureaucratic engine rooms. Here, clerks update the census, tax collectors track grain shipments, and scribes draft letters to Rome. At the eastern end, on a raised dais within an apse, sits the governor of Britannia. He is surrounded by bodyguards and advisors. He is hearing a capital case. The fate of a man, be it citizenship, slavery, or death, is being decided in Latin, the language of power. This building was the physical manifestation of the Pax Romana. It said to every Briton that Rome is big, Rome is permanent, and Rome is here to stay. But buildings are just stone. It is people who make a city. While the basilica has left us its foundations, the people who worked there have left us their voices, preserved in mud. Excavations near the Walbrook River at the Bloomberg site recovered hundreds of wooden writing tablets. These were the emails of the Roman world, stylus-scratched notes on wax-covered wood. They give us a direct line to the business conducted in and around the basilica. One tablet, dated between AD 65 and 80, contains the address Londinio Mogontio, which means in London to Mogontius. It is the earliest written reference to the city's name. We read of Tibullus, the freedman, who promises to pay a debt. We see contracts for 20 loads of provisions sent from St. Albans to London. One tablet mentions a pre-trial hearing. This would have happened right here, in the basilica. We even find the alphabet scratched out by a child, evidence of a school, perhaps held in the porticos of the Forum. These tablets reveal a city of hustlers, immigrants, soldiers, and slaves. A city where a man from Athens could trade with a man from Gaul, using a currency minted in Rome, under laws enforced in the Londinium Basilica. Just as the Great Basilica reached its peak, disaster struck. Around AD 125 or 130, a massive fire ripped through London. Archaeologists call it the Hadrianic Fire. Unlike the Boudiccan fire, there is no historical record of a war or revolt. The fire was so intense, it melted glass and baked the clay walls of buildings into red brick. The basilica was heavily damaged. Some historians speculate about a Hadrianic War, an unrecorded revolt that required the emperor's personal presence in Britain to suppress. Was the fire an act of war? Or was it simply an accident in a city full of timber and thatch? Whatever the cause, the city and the basilica rebuilt, but the Golden Age was fading. The story of the basilica's final destruction is as dramatic as its construction. It did not just rot away, it was erased. By the late 3rd century, the Roman Empire was fracturing. In AD 286, a Roman naval commander named Carausius seized power in Britain. He declared himself Emperor of the North, minting coins in London that proclaimed a new British Empire separate from Rome. For 7 years, London was the capital of this breakaway empire. The basilica would have been Carausius' showpiece, the center of his rogue court. But the empire struck back. In AD 296, the legitimate emperor Constantius Chlorus invaded. Carausius was assassinated by his own treasurer, Electus, and Electus was then defeated by Rome. London was retaken. Rome did not forgive traitors. Following the reconquest, it appears that the Great Basilica was systematically demolished. Around AD 300, the site of the basilica was leveled. The great masonry walls were dismantled. The stone was not just stolen, the building was removed. This was likely a damnatio memoriae, a punishment of the city. London was stripped of its status. The administrative center was broken up, and the province was divided into 4 smaller units to prevent any one governor from becoming too powerful again. The great civic heart of London was turned into a workshop area. The Grand Forum became a place for small industrial fires and dust. The Cathedral of Rome was gone. For 1,500 years the basilica slept. Saxon Londonwick grew to the west near Covent Garden, and when the walled city was reoccupied in the 9th century, the new medieval streets of Gracechurch and Cornhill were laid out right over the top of the Roman ruins, completely oblivious to them. The ghost of the basilica began to emerge in the Victorian era. In 1881, workers digging the foundations for the ornate Leadenhall Market, which still stands today, hit massive walls. They found arches and piers of incredible strength. At the time, they did not fully understand the plan, but they knew they had found the Roman center. Today, if you visit Nicholson and Griffin, a barber shop in the corner of Leadenhall Market, you can ask to go to the basement. There, between the hair products and towels, is a preserved arch of the Roman Basilica. It is one of London's greatest hidden secrets. In the post-World War II era, archaeologists like Peter Marsden and Brian Philp began to piece the jigsaw together. As bomb sites were cleared and skyscrapers rose, they mapped the walls. They realized that the bits and pieces found over 100 years were all part of one colossal structure. Which brings us back to 85 Gracechurch Street. The 2025 excavation was the final piece of the puzzle. It confirmed the location of the Eastern Tribunal and provided the high-definition detail, the painted plaster, and the specific floor levels that the Victorians missed. The Londinium Basilica is a reminder of how deep the roots of London go. When you walk down Gracechurch Street today, you are walking down the nave of a ghost building. When you enter Leadenhall Market to buy a coffee, you are standing in the middle of the Roman Forum, where a soldier from Syria might have bought oysters from a trader from Kent 1,900 years ago. The basilica was a symbol of an empire that believed it would last forever. It did not. But in its ruins, we find the DNA of London. A city of trade, of law, of diverse voices, and of constant, ruthless reinvention. The 2025 discovery is not just about rocks. It is about reconnecting with the first time London decided to be a world city.